Hello everybody, this is AK. I'm back. So I get the feeling that many Singaporeans think that they have to work till the day they actually die and say bye-bye to this world. Right? I get that feeling because there are many reports in the news about how the younger generation, many of them actually feel that things are too expensive, homes are too expensive, they cannot afford this, they cannot afford that, and planning for retirement is just something that's so far away and too difficult, right? And in fact, in the news, there was an article that said that more than half of Singaporeans surveyed said they will never be financially free. And when I look at that, I felt a bit sad, because I think financial freedom, the emphasis is on the second word, freedom. When you become financially free, you have freedom in more ways than one, to do whatever you want without having to worry about money, right? So and this is something I blog about a lot, right, in the last 15 years. How can we become financially free in Singapore? And I also made a video not too long ago about how we can become a millionaire in Singapore, and that how it is doable. And of course, I also blog about how we can become a CPF billionaire, and that I've done many times in the past, and how I became a CPF billionaire when I was 49 years old, right? All this is doable, but then some people say, hey, AK, you are not married, you don't have children, right? So you have one less cost in life to worry about. Well, that's true, right? I still have parents to take care of, but then I don't have kids, right? So if I have kids, I'm sure that will set me back by many years, right? I wouldn't have been able to achieve FIRE 8 years ago, right? When I was just 44, right? 44 and a half. Yeah, so that is true. To be fair, that is true. So what about regular folks who believe in getting married and having children? Well, if they're high flyers, they make a lot of money, then okay, I don't think they have a problem, right? If they're financially prudent, they shouldn't have a problem, right? But for regular folks who are middle income, they are not high flyers, which of course that will cover most of us, right? Middle income or lower middle income, or even the lower income groups, right? So I think probably the middle income and lower middle income have to be more sensitive to their cost of living, in the sense that very often they fall into aspirational traps. They buy a car and they try to upgrade to condos and stuff like that, and that will actually trap them even more, and prevent them from achieving financial freedom even more, because of all the costs that's involved and long-term costs, especially a car, because it's a depreciating asset. With a home, there is a chance that we could make money from a home, right? When we are older, we can downgrade, and unlock some value, for example. But of course, our government is making harder for people with private properties to downgrade to HDB flats, because there's a waiting period. Then in that waiting period, we will probably have to rent before we can buy a pre-owned flat or apply for a new flat. Applying for a new flat is probably out of the question because the waiting time is so long, right? So anyway, before I sidetrack, so how are average Singaporeans going to have a comfortable retirement? And I think the narrative has to change, for many people. It's not about achieving financial freedom or achieving financial freedom early, retiring early. It's about how you can have a comfortable retirement by the time we are age 65, which I think is a fairly good age for most people to retire, right? At least you're not working to the day you die, So, and I've talked about this before. But I think might be important to talk about it again, because the CPF special account is going away once we turn 55, right? So for many people who might have used the CPF as a shielding method and to get a 4% risk-free guaranteed return on their SA savings, well, that's out. And a reader asked me, he's above 55 years old, whether he should actually take that money that from the SA, which is going back to his OA, and just buy UOB, DBS, and OCBC stocks instead, and then enjoy the dividend. Well, 5 to 6% dividend yield sounds very attractive, but I think when we're age 55 and above, we have to be less adventurous. Who knows? Stocks are not risk-free or volatility-free. Things could go wrong, and like what happened during the pandemic. MAS says, they say to DBS, OCBC, and UOB, you have to pay lower dividends to your shareholders. Then what to do? So I think we have to recognize that when we're older, we have to be less adventurous. Cannot take on too much risk, and as much as possible try to have less volatility. So for most regular people who are maybe not as financially savvy, having a good annuity makes sense. There's certainty in retirement funding. So if you have full retirement sum, you can think of the enhanced retirement sum, right? And that allows us to have twice as much as the full retirement sum, and that should give us at least about $3,000 per month of income from age 65 onwards, or 70, and that gives us peace of mind. There's talk about how the interest made is going to go into a pool and it doesn't go to your beneficiaries. Oh my goodness, when we're at that age, right, think of ourselves first, right? Funding our retirement has priority. I think your children, your kids, they have their own ways, find their own ways, right? Your 儿孙自有儿孙福, that kind of thing. So that's point one. Recognize cannot be too adventurous with money, because we cannot afford massive or total loss of capital, and we probably cannot take big hits when it comes to passive income in our retirement either, especially if we are just average income and when we were still working, right? I'm not talking down on people. I'm just being realistic. Okay, so. And then number two, I said get a good annuity, and CPF Life is a good place to start, right? Enhanced retirement sum, think of that. Funding our retirement has priority in a manner that will give us greater certainty. But of course, if you're financially savvy, very savvy, you know how to go in and out to get the most out for your money, then maybe just the full retirement sum and you invest the rest on your own, right? Even in your old age, right? So then I also said that the third point is getting some investment grade bonds, right? Of course, Singapore savings bonds is probably something that's within reach of every one of us, and even for me, I bought more Singapore savings bonds in the last 4 months, right? With 10-year average yield something like 3.4%, 3.3%, even 3.2%, that kind of thing. That one has certainty for 10 years at least, right? It's not too bad. But of course, Singapore savings bonds, I think the 10-year average yield has come down now. Is something like 2.7 or 2.8%. Much lower, but still something worth considering, because it's risk-free, volatility-free, like I say, certainty in retirement funding. And then it comes investing in equities, right? And I say invest in equities which are highly rated, like DBS, OCBC, UOB, right? We know that financially they are very strong and they have a history of rewarding shareholders and rewarding shareholders well, right? So, but this should be a smaller percentage of our total portfolio. I mean, off the top of my head, I think for a retiree, maybe 30-40%, maximum 50% in equities, or for those who are less financially savvy, right? You want something that's a no-brainer, or as close to a no-brainer as possible, because no-brainer would be like investment grade bonds. Equities not quite, right? And number 5, adjust our lifestyles. If we have to adjust our lifestyle, so we might be living off like $5,000 a month in the past, but if our passive income now in retirement is $3,500 or $4,000, then we are $1,000 shortfall. Just make some adjustments. Have to be realistic unless you want to go back to work, right? So it's possible to have a comfortable retirement, but maybe not lavish or a bit more comfortable than comfortable, but comfortable I think is doable, right? And then what if, after adjustment there's still a big mismatch, right? There's still a big mismatch. Then there's no choice lah. Go and work part-time or go back to work for another few years to show up our retirement funds. Especially if we have more than 2 kids, for example. If we have 3 or 4 or 5 kids, I know some people who have that many kids, but their income's quite average. They like kids. There's nothing wrong with liking kids, but kids are expensive in Singapore, right? So just do some part-time work to supplement our passive income. And then of course, if we have had that many kids before, then we probably have a bigger flat. For example, maybe there are 3 bedrooms, you can rent out 1 or 2 spare bedrooms, and that will supplement our income. So I think maybe it's not for all Singaporeans, not for all average or below average Singaporeans, but for most average Singaporeans, I think a comfortable retirement is not beyond us, right? So I'll leave a link in the description box to the blog post I have mentioned just now, or the videos, right? So if AK can talk to himself, so can you. Bye bye.